the way they exonerate themselves and take, and I do mean zero responsibility for that disaster of a campaign, should have Democrats nationwide, never mind those who donated, in a fury, in a true fury. They don't understand what went wrong at all. And they'll be asking for Democrat donations soon again to spend it on more folly. We're going to go through it, and I will try to move quickly with my comments, but I think you might find it interesting. I've got some sound bites, but I'm just going to kind of read some of it so you'll know what they're saying. All right. There are three people here. Jen O'Malley Dillon, who is the campaign chair, Quentin Fulks, who was, I think, the comms guy, like messaging, or Stephanie Cutter, she was messaging, and Quentin Fulks, who's high up in the campaign. Also, David Pluff is there. He was brought in as a campaign consultant. Fulks is the deputy campaign manager. Stephanie Cutter oversaw messaging. Okay, so it's those four: Jen O'Malley Dillon, Quentin Fulks, Stephanie Cutter, David Pluff. Let's just kick it off at the top. Was there a moment when you understood on election night how it was going to end? Jen O'Malley Dillon, who's the most dishonest of the ones who are here. She's by far the most dishonest, and she was the one at the top of the campaign. She will not admit to any mistakes. You had $1 billion and you wasted it, and you lost an election and nationally humiliated yourself, but I guess you're not going to take any responsibility. She should never run a campaign again. It's fine by me. I mean, I'm not going to vote for her candidate, but like if you're a Democrat, you don't want this person. The truth is, we thought it was a close race all along. We knew we'd have to have a strong turnout on election day. It really took us into the wee hours of polls closing for us to know for sure that things were just not tightening. They were tight, but they weren't tightening in the direction we needed them to be. That's not an honest answer. For sure, they knew earlier in the evening. Everyone on Team Trump knew earlier in the evening. Elon knew. So we knew earlier in the evening. You could see the turnout was very high in the rural areas and much lower in some urban centers that they were relying on. You could see that red areas were turning out. She's okay. So already we're not kicking it off on a good note. She says, we saw Trump turn out high in early vote, but we just believe that to be mode shifting, meaning people who otherwise would have voted on election day just turning out earlier by mail. We saw turnout was as expected in rural areas. That's not true either. We saw some lighter turnout in some of the areas we had hoped, yes, but difference of a point, just a point here or there. Little bit of a drop in support in a few areas for us. A little bit of a drop in support in a few areas for us. Okay, you lost 312 electoral votes to 226. You lost the popular vote by 2.4 million. It was not a little bit of a drop in support in a few areas for you. Hello, madam, you got crushed. I don't know whether anybody really told you the truth, but you were eviscerated. It was not a little bit of a drop in support in a few areas for you, okay? This is the big come to Jesus interview in which they're really going to get into the truth and honesty about what went wrong. Question, what did your polls tell you about the race heading into Election Day? David Pluff. Now, he's like the number one spinner in this whole thing. Spin. Jen O'Malley Dillon just doesn't admit anything. Like nothing went wrong. Basically, we won. We won, except for just a few little areas where we didn't win, and that's what stole it from us. But we kind of won. David Pluff is like, well, we lost, but it wasn't our fault. Conditions. Terrible conditions. Political environment. Who created the political environment again? Who created the conditions to which you refer? He keeps hitting the economy. You did. You did, sir. Your party, your candidate, and her boss, Joe Biden. None of that is addressed. It's like, why would the voters return to office the very people who had caused these conditions for them in the first place? That's not addressed, and therefore they will continue to lose. That's like the overall theme of what we're going to go through. Here's what he says. Okay, what did your polls tell you? Well, they're bad, but we climbed back from the hole that Joe Biden created. And even post-debate, we still showed ourselves down, but very close. And by the end, it was a jump ball race. We needed some things to break our way. We did have some progress with undecideds in late October, but it was a dead heat race. But at the end of the day, he says, the political atmosphere was pretty brutal. The political atmosphere. That's not an excuse. He says this throughout. Not an excuse, but everything was not our fault. It's not an excuse, but we did nothing wrong. It's not an excuse, but political environment. Again, who created that? Political atmosphere. Right track, wrong track? 2872. Right. What? Who is in power, sir? Who is creating the track? You are. Your party. And by the way, those are the same numbers during the midterms in which you did rather well. So what explains that? Could your candidate have anything to do with this? Could it be her total ineptitude and stupidity? I guess we're not going to acknowledge that. And the Democrats are talking about nominating her again to run against the Republican at the end of Trump's second term. So, okay, fine. 70% of the country saying they're angry and dissatisfied. Why again? You had Trump's approval rating on his first term frustratingly high, 48 to 51. They're so upset that people were looking with fondness on Trump's first term. Why was that? Like Afghanistan, 19% inflation, between 10 and 20 million illegals. It is frustrating, I know, when voters see and feel all that and then hold the party in power to account. Then he goes back. Again, I think given that we had a challenging political environment and the fact that we got the race to a dead heat was positive, but boy, it was slow moving. This is what he says throughout. Started in a hole, we got it to a dead heat, and we did better in the swing states where we actually campaigned versus, the rest of the union. This is loser talk. This is loser talk. You talk to a football team after it loses a game. If they want to win the next game, they say, I fucked up. I dropped the pass. I had buttery fingers today. Well, no man would say that, but that would be how I would describe it. And butterfingers. Anyway, they'd be honest about what went wrong. It wouldn't be like, it was snowy. It was a tough environment. The fans booed a lot. Tough environment. They hated us. They jeered a lot. This is not the kind of self-assessment that leads to better results in the future. Then he points out, as I say, so where Kamala Harris campaigned, we were able to keep the tide down a little. They keep talking about the rightward shift in the country and how it went 8 points to the right, 6 points to the right on average, something like that. But they kept it relatively, less than that, 3 points, they said, in the swing states. Congratulations. You're a loser by a little less. That's what they want their party to celebrate. We're losers, but we lost by a little less. Where we spent our $1 billion. Believe it or not, we will get to the point in this interview in which they bitch about the money, about Republican super PACs. You had $1 billion that you raised in 2 months. Would you stop your disgusting whinging, as our friends over in Australia say? Okay. Margin of error race, he says again, where we inherited a deficit, we got it to even, but the thing never moved. So, that's where we were hopeful. Margin of error. These people are never winning again. Trump did not close well, he says. I thought Kamala Harris closed well. Trump was reminding people some of the things they don't like about him. How was it? What did Trump do specifically? He didn't close well? Again, he crushed you 312 to 226. What should he have done differently in the close? We thought that might give us what we needed. But in the end, I think the political atmosphere, the desire for change, and all those fundamentals that you spent some time talking about really presented huge challenges for us. And we just didn't get the breaks we needed on election day. Passive voice. We didn't get the breaks we needed. Kind of hoped things would break for us. You didn't earn the trust, the affection, the admiration, or the desire to spend more time with you of the voters. You failed because your candidate sucked. And by the way, no message guru could have fixed it. But you certainly failed. Now that I get to know you four, my God, I'm truly, like I said the other day, I'm starting to feel sorry for her because she's a Nimrod. And then she had a bunch of know-nothing advisors around her trying to affirm these empty messages as though they were brilliant. And you'll hear Stephanie Cutter actually get into this. It's actually quite fascinating. David Pluff goes on in response to the question from Dan Pfeiffer, how deep was that hole that she had to climb out of? Well, here he gets really honest. He said on Twitter right after the loss, we climbed out of a hole. And he got so much negative feedback from the Dems, he had to delete his account. Well, now he's loosening up. he's leaning into it wasn't our fault. And I've got my new narrative, deep hole. I got us out of it. Guy got us to even, but things didn't quite break our way in a few districts. No, David, no, that's not it. So what he says now, though, is he's making it even worse. His heroic behavior, it's even bigger and better than you knew. Now we've gone from just, we were in a hole that we dug out of, to it was obviously pretty catastrophic in terms of where the race stood when we got in. Catastrophic, you say. I mean, we were behind. He says, we were surprised that these public polls came out late September, early October, showing us with leads that we never saw. In a hole, I tell you. All the digging we had to do, and we were the ones to do it. It wasn't a race that moved a lot. You got to have the undecideds break your way more than your opponents, and you've got to get a little benefit from turnout. I mean, he is talking about this like it was razor. We had what? 10 million Democrats who didn't show up this time, who showed up last time for Joe Biden. Like, this was not a nail biter, sir. It was not. The polls may have showed prior to the polls may have shown prior to the race that it looked tight. We saw that too. But your internal polls should have done you one better. Trump's internal polls reportedly were showing the momentum that ultimately showed up on Election Day. Want a great gift for yourself this holiday season? I mean, that's how it goes, right? One for them, one for you. I want to tell you about the Genucel jawline treatment with dual peptide and MDL technology, Genucel's most advanced ever. The jawline treatment not only tightens a saggy jawline, but it plumps the layers of your skin to contour, define, and sculpt the jawline and neck area within minutes. And with the Genucel Immediate Effects product, you could see tightening in minutes, and the results get better every day. Just in time for Christmas and the holiday season, save over 70% off Genucel's complete skincare package featuring the jawline treatment and Genucel's Immediate Effects product. You will even get Genucel XV wrinkle treatment included. Go to Genucel.com/MK today and start looking years, even decades younger tomorrow. GENUCEL.com/MK. Genucel.com/MK. And as a special holiday gift, every package order includes a bonus beauty box with two skincare bestsellers. All orders automatically upgraded to free priority shipping. Genucel.com/MK. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.